I'd like to thank the Austin chapter Hacking HR group, which I'm a part of, for this venue for the Zoom count that can reach up to 500. I'm not sure we're gonna get there, but they have all the logistics allowed to get this thing recorded and sent out to you all. So thank you for that. And next, most importantly, I'd like to introduce Jessica Miller, Program Coordinator for Nami Central Texas. Nami is a wonderful organization, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. With this conversation throughout, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and ask. We will get those responded to in the conversation. If there are any questions that need to be discussed afterwards, then of course we would be happy to answer those at the end and throughout. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and transition over to Jessica. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you so much, Sam. I'll go ahead and switch over and get my slides pulled up. Let's see. Oop. Fun. There we go. Sam, can you just give me a thumbs up if you're looking at the correct slide? You are, okay.
Yes.
All right. I have a little problem pulling up mine, but that's okay. We'll kind of go from here. So hi, everybody. Welcome and thank you for being here. My name is Jessica Miller, and I am the Child and Youth Program Coordinator with NAMI Central Texas. So you're going to hear a little bit more about the programming we offer throughout the Central Texas area. And don't worry, if you're from outside areas or another state, I also will show you how to find the NAMI closest to you as well. So no worries. So before we kind of move on, I just always like to share a little bit about me, kind of what made me come to NAMI, and really how I came to really understand the importance of the work that we do. So I have an older sister that was with a very serious mental illness. It greatly impacted our family, and my family, like most families, we were not talking about it before my sister got sick. And we would not dare say those words, right? Mental illness or even mental wellness. And so we really struggled for years to really find the support that my sister needed to be really trying to get on the same page as a family, to be able to communicate about it. And so I found NAMI about 9 years ago and took a NAMI class, and have just been a real big believer in NAMI. That was long before I worked for NAMI. So I really have a lot of love for the work that we do. So we're going to go ahead and get started, just kind of going through to let you know a little bit more about who we are and what we do. So we are a peer-led program. And so what that means is that all of our programs throughout the community are provided by volunteers who have what we call lived experience. Now, what do we mean by that? Either they are an adult living with mental illness and in recovery, or they're a family member of a loved one living with mental illness who have gone through our training and become certified to be able to bring the programming out to the community. So it's really kind of a unique situation, and we love being part of that peer programming model. So NAMI, we are, as Sam said, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We're one of the largest grassroots organizations around mental health, education, support, and advocacy throughout the country. Throughout the country, there are about 600, a little more than 600 affiliates. So certainly, no matter where you go, there should be one at least within a couple of hours from you. We provide no-cost education and support not only to family members who have a loved one living with mental illness, but to the adult living with mental illness as well. And then we do all kinds of programming to the general public to really raise awareness around mental health conditions. We really know that one of the biggest factors that prevents people from getting early intervention, early support, whether or not it's themselves living with the mental illness or a family member, is the stigma and shame. And so it's so important that we're really kind of getting that message out. These are very common these are common health concerns. And even though they're common, they are also treatable, and there is hope and recovery. And that's really important for folks to hear that and to really know that. So one of our biggest things that we're charged with doing as an organization is to really help change the perceptions around mental health conditions. And we do that through our programming. I'm going to specifically, for the majority part of this presentation, focus on what NAMI Central Texas offers throughout the Central Texas area. And so I say that because I just want to be really clear that our organization, there are many affiliates throughout the country that are completely volunteer run. We're very fortunate in Central Texas to have some staff. And so I just say that because depending on if it's staff run or volunteer run, every affiliate could have different numbers of programming, different capacity to run programs. So just keeping that in mind. The program I'm going to talk about today is going to be very specific to NAMI Central Texas, though there might be some overlap with other affiliates. Right now, everything we're doing is virtual. Us, like all of the country, all of the world, right, switched to virtual back in spring. And so just keeping that in mind that that's going to be kind of ongoing at least until mid next year. All right. So you're going to see me kind of talk about two different tracks today about what we have to offer for folks in the community. One track is going to be for the adult living with mental illness, and then the other track is going to be for the family member. And at NAMI, we're really big believers that one of the ways that we really support that individual living with mental illness is by supporting their family as well, right? I know my family, we were struggling to find the information and support we needed, and it made it even more challenging to be able to be a good support and sounding board for my sister. So for the adults living with mental illness, we have a program right now called Stories and Strategies. This is a 4-week session. We're going to be having one that's starting in October. It's really meant for the adult living with mental illness. And what this session really does, I really love this session. We actually have 2 volunteers who were just critical in the creation of this program. Every session includes a live presenter who shares a little bit about their story of living with mental illness and being in recovery. And then in addition to that story piece, every session they share a strategy, something that really helps them. So one of the pieces is about self-care. And so the presenters kind of speak on that piece. So it's really great because people get to hear a little bit of information, education-wise, and then also someone's story. It's a great way of kind of coming together. And they also kind of share and dialogue throughout that session. The great thing also about this session is that somebody can come for one session, see if it's a good fit for them. If they're not able to make all 4, completely fine. They can sign up for whichever ones they want. And I'm going to show you all our website, but I'm going to save that to the end. In addition to the stories and strategies piece, we have NAMI Connection, which is a support group for the adults living with mental illness. You're going to hear me say this a lot in the beginning just because I really want to make sure to get this point across. But once again, we're peer-led. So the great thing about our support groups is that they are led by 2 adults, in this particular case, living with mental illness. And the real goal of support group is that folks will leave support group feeling more connected, more supported, less alone than when they came into support group. And so our facilitators are trained in how to facilitate the dialogue, how to make sure nobody monopolizes conversation, and how to make sure everybody gets what they need. We also share resources because we know that a lot of times that's why people are reaching out to us too. They're trying to feel less alone, trying to get some help, and also trying to find out how to connect with other resources within their community. So this is offered, like I said, weekly. You can just go to our website and sign up for it. It is, once again, not run by a clinician, right? So these are not therapy groups. Our services, peer-led programs, are really great to work in conjunction with therapeutic services, but not necessary, but usually it's a good idea. Okay, so aside from the programming for the adult living with mental illness, for the family members, partners, and parents, we have some other programming. So we have a great program that we just launched in April called Families Together. This is a 3-week session course where families log in for 3 weeks for an hour and a half each week. And what they get is really a great general overview to understand mental illness better. We talk about some just diagnoses, treatment options. We talk about self-care for the family member and the caregivers, and crisis management. So it's a great piece that we kind of lecture in part of this presentation, but then we also do breakout groups. So it's great because families get to meet other families and kind of talk and share. And that's really at the heart of who NAMI is connecting folks with other people. I forgot to mention, but we are going to have time for question and answer at the end. Feel free if you need to, you don't want to forget your question and you just want to pop it into the chat or the Q&A box, that completely works, or just jot it down and we'll make sure to get to it. Family to Family, it is an 8-week course for loved ones who have, for people who have a loved one living with mental illness. And this course, we are actually piloting it right now online. So we've done it for years in person, but we're doing our first class right now online. It's similar to Families Together, except as you can imagine, 8 weeks long. We go into a lot more depth about these different topics. And really what I love about these classes is that the participants really get to learn to know each other and to really have that sense of community. I know that Family to Family was the class that I took years ago, and it was just very, very informative, but man, made you feel really connected.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure. I'm sorry, Sam. Yeah, I saw your hand waving. Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. So let's say me, for example, my siblings are in cities all separate. So what would you recommend for people like me who have siblings throughout the state, if not, the country, on that as well too? I guess virtually would be great now that that's an option, but can you share more?
Yeah, so definitely the virtual option. We haven't reached capacity really in our program, so we have had folks that have joined our virtual programming from all over, and that's completely okay. But like a class like Family to Family, that's a signature program, meaning that throughout the affiliates throughout the country, you're going to find that program over and over again. So the great news is if you're taking this class and you're like, hey, I'd like for my, my sibling would also like to take it. I'll show you at the end how they can connect to their local NAMI and then get connected to that program as well. Does that answer that question, Sam? Awesome. Okay, thank you. So in addition to the classes where, that class, like I said, we're going to be following a set curriculum. It's following, going through specific modules. We also have a family support group, which is similar to that support group I just mentioned for the adult peers living with mental illness, except this is for the family member. And so it's a really great way of those family members also being able to connect with others. You're going to hear me say that a ton. I'm sorry, but it is such a pivotal part of this work. It's such a critical piece. And so these are led by, once again, family members who have gone through our training and are certified. Just a great way of connecting. Right now, we have a couple of those running, I believe, on 2 Thursdays a month, and then 2 Mondays a month. All right, and the other option that we have is a workshop called Family and Friends. So as you can see, we have lots of different options, and we really try to meet folks where they are. Sometimes, especially, I don't know about you all, but being on long Zoom calls can be a little tough these days. And so we're really trying to give some different options so that people can really choose, can they do a 2-hour block, or is it better for them to kind of spread that time out over weeks? And so you'll kind of see that when you're looking at the slide. But the Family and Friends workshop is essentially the families together, except it's squished into one day, 2 to 4 hours, with a little less interactive parts. And so that is one piece just to be mindful of. But we are excited. We're going to be launching that one soon. We used to do that, as I mentioned, in person, but now online. All right. And the other thing, is that our national office really recognized that when we have families who have children or teens who are either have a diagnosis right now, or maybe they don't have a diagnosis, but they're seeing some of these behavioral health concerns, those families have very specific needs that aren't going to be met in a class mixed with families who have adult family members, right? And so we have this spinoff, and this is called Basics on Demand, which is especially for these parents who still have these kids and teens who are navigating systems like the school system, juvenile system. And so this program really is geared more towards that age group for those parents, and it helps really connect them with other parents as well. Similar to Family, as I mentioned, we do talk about some other systems that are more applicable to families with kids those ages. And right now, our online, our Basics on Demand is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's kind of a self-paced course. So this is a really great option, especially, you know, some families have different work schedules, so they can pop in, take this kind of at their leisure when they have the time, and definitely still get that information and support. We also have a new program called Lighthouse. It is very common that we have parents reach out to us and just say, you know, my child just got a diagnosis. I don't even know where to start, right? Or we've been in and out of systems for years and we're just really struggling. So what we really love about this is we were able to get some funding to have a parent support and resource navigator. Her name is Nydia, and she is wonderful. She's also one of our she's also one of our basics trainers and teachers. And so Nydia takes calls and emails from families who are really just trying to find either additional resources for their family, or maybe you're trying to find more specific things for their child or teen living with a mental health condition. They do not have to have a diagnosis. We know that many times it's very common for diagnoses to change, or for a young child not to have an official diagnosis. And so that's okay, as long as they're seeing any of those kind of behavioral health concerns. They can reach out to this, our parent support and resource navigator. And I also want to add that Nydia is also bilingual, Spanish speaking. And so that's another great thing to be aware of. If you are working with or have any families that are Spanish speaking that need that support, they can definitely get that. All right, so in addition to classes and workshops and support groups, we also do presentations throughout the community to raise awareness around mental health. We have a few that are very geared towards the child and youth programs. So one of them is Let's Talk, which is a presentation for parents who have children or teens. Doesn't matter whether or not they're living with mental health conditions. The whole goal of this presentation is to help equip parents with the tools of how do you make it okay to talk about mental health in our homes, right? I know that for many of us, at least in my family, we didn't grow up talking about it, and it would have been great to have some of those skills, to have some language around it. And so this really is about helping parents kind of make it okay to talk about mental health, and less scary and more informative. And so it's a great companion piece that we do with the second program you see on there called Ending the Silence. And In the Silence is a 50-minute presentation for middle school and high school students. We do not have to just go into schools. We worked with youth groups before, outside student clubs. But this presentation is geared towards helping young people get the information early on to understand what are mental health conditions, what are symptoms they may see in themselves or friends. We talk about suicide prevention as well in that presentation, and how to reach out and get help. Because what we know is that with numbers like 1 in 5 youth living with a mental health condition and 50% not receiving any kind of services, we know there's so much that can be done, and it is really positive that the earlier we get the information out there and really start making it okay to talk about mental health, the better off all of our communities are going to be. So those two pieces are there. And then the third piece is called Parents and Teachers as Allies. It's a presentation for school staff. We know our kiddos spend most of their time at home and at school, and so having that support in all those areas is critical. So once again, that's a presentation we'll come out and do with school staff, and it's really just about furthering that compassion of working with that family member. What I love about all these presentations is that while each piece has information and a psychoeducation component, there's also a story sharing component. And I have to tell you that we can give facts and figures all day, but so many times what helps connect people is hearing someone else's story and knowing that they're not alone. And all of our presentations have a component of that. Okay, some other presentations throughout the community. And don't worry, I know this is a lot of information, but at the end, I'm going to take y'all to our website so you'll know it's all there. Don't worry about taking down notes. So we have one called Dispelling Myths, and it's that keep us quiet around mental health. This is a really great kind of introduction presentation that we've done to different workplaces, but also community groups as well. And this is all about starting that conversation, right? Kind of starting from what are those things that so many times cause fear or misinformation that people really don't want to talk about mental health, and we just kind of address them head on, and also have a presenter that shares a little bit of their story as well. So it's a great piece of just kind of starting that conversation. We also have In Our Own Voice, and this presentation has two adult presenters who both live with mental illness, and they really share their story, kind of going through three different areas. So crisis, what happens, right? What helps, and what's next? You know, in all of our presentations, whether they're for school or for community, we do not gloss over that these are challenging illnesses. They are, but we also need to let people, and it's so important for all of us to know that their recovery with a mental health condition is possible. There is hope and support. And that's a critical message that you'll see kind of woven in all of the presenter stories. Of course, the What is NAMI presentation is the one we're doing right now. It's typically 30 minutes, so we are having a little bit more time today, which is great. We'll have more time for questions, but just knowing that's something also that we can come and present as well. And then we do another program called Bridges to Hope, and we are not affiliated with any kind of denomination, but what we do know is that for many folks, when they are struggling with mental health within their family or community, they turn to their faith. That's very common, and so this training is for faith leaders to really help give them the tools and feel a little bit more support in how they can talk about mental health within their different faith communities. Okay. This last piece on the presentations is really presentations that we've created that are geared towards workplaces. You know, we, just like we talk about with children and youth, right? We have to have programming for the parent and for the school, right? That our kids are going to be in both places. Well, for adults as well, so many times what we hear from adults is, you know, should I tell my workplace, you know, that my loved one is struggling with this, or, you know, or I'm struggling with this, and kind of being in this area of not knowing what to do. And so these are great presentations to bring into the workplace to start the conversations, or maybe you're already starting the conversations, which is wonderful, but just to kind of add some more support in there as well. So we have one just about managing stress, which we can all benefit from, but that's a great piece. Our executive director does these presentations. Dispelling the myths, as I mentioned, we do that for the community, but also for workplaces. And then our third one, creating a supportive environment for mental health. And I really like that, because it's about framing these positive mental health conversations within our workplace, right? It's one thing to say mental health is important, but if we all just go home with that and aren't in an environment where we can openly talk about that, it can still be a struggle. And so finding ways to do that work for your work environment. And then also our last one, cultivating empathy for a healthier workplace. So just some great pieces that you might want to bring to your different workplaces. Those are all 1 hour in the workplace as well. Okay. And I'm not going to read these to you all, but just want to kind of point out, these are some of the feedback that we do get from participants. We do gather data, particularly from our classes, about, you know, pre and post data. And of course, with our presentations, we're always in a place of wanting to continue to grow and to improve programming. But you'll see, you know, so much of what people have to say is just about feeling more connected to their loved one, right? Being able to communicate better, you know, really feeling like, oh, wow, I'm not the only one. There's other people, maybe their path, maybe their journey isn't exactly like mine, but it's similar. And then also, people also have reported lately that I'll have to tell you, us, like most of the world, were hesitant to go online, right? We were worried that there would be some kind of a disconnect, and there certainly are challenges, but we certainly have heard from people, man, it's been really nice to be able to take your programming within my home, being able to take it with other family members that are in other locations. And so that's another great piece as well that we've, some feedback we've gotten from folks. All right, a couple more slides, and then we'll definitely have lots of time for question and answer. Just keeping in mind, we have other virtual events such as Mind Matters. So Mind Matters at Home is a 1 hour webinar that we do twice a month. We bring in a professional within our community in the mental health realm, and they really kind of share, you know, a piece of their expertise. So for example, we have had the crisis intervention team with our local law enforcement speak about what families can expect if a mental health officer goes out for a crisis call. We've had counselors come in and talk about different therapy, different therapies, such as like dialectical behavioral therapy and different pieces on that. So these are great. You can just register for them. They're free. Like I said, all those are free. And we record them all now. So it's awesome that people can go back. If you're like, man, I missed that one on anxiety, you can go back and watch it. It's always there. And so that's another piece to know about. The other thing is we have a Nami Walk every year. So Nami Walks is our biggest fundraiser. And as you can imagine, because we do all of our work at no cost to the community, this is really important to us. But above all, yes, it's a big fundraiser. But above all, it's a great way of the community just coming together and saying mental health matters in our community. This will, of course, be our first year where it's a virtual walk. So please come and join us. And we're excited to see kind of what that looks like. It's going to be Saturday, October the 10th. You can form a team. You can join another team. Our theme this year is Walk Your Way. And so, you know, we're encouraging folks, get creative. Is it walking in your community? Is it doing yoga in your house? Just getting creative in however you want to celebrate mental health. I really love this. One of our executive director, her daughter, Sarah, lives with major depression. And I love this. When Sarah first went to her first walk years ago, you know, she told her mom, wow, this is the first time I've been to an event where it's celebrating us, right? It's not saying, oh, these people, you know, it's celebrating that yes, we have these mental health conditions, but we're not bad people, and that together with the community and with our family and friends, right, we can all be very supportive of each other and continue to live in recovery. So it's a great day, and I really encourage y'all to join us. The other resources that I'll show you once we get on our website, of course, we have some that are specific to coronavirus. We have a lot of people that reach out and maybe our support group is full and they're like, I'm looking for an online support group. So we have some additional ones that people can go to. And so I'll show you all on the website. Or sometimes people are just, they want different options, and that's always important. So they can definitely do that piece. We have lots of crisis information. I do want to go through that with you all because it is great to know kind of what's there, and different, you know, hotlines to dial. We have crisis intervention teams listed on there and some great guides to help families and their loved one really prepare for mental health crises before it happens, kind of have a plan in place. And we know that that's absolutely so important, so very important. So we'll share those pieces. And then just general information. You know, as I mentioned, nobody on staff, we are not licensed clinicians. So we really partner with our community services who do provide those kind of options. And so many times people are contacting us and saying, I need a counselor, right? Or I'm trying to find this kind of therapy. So we can try to help connect them to that community resource. And so we'll definitely be looking at that on our website in a minute as well. Just to give you a little bit of an impact report, you can find this on our website as well, but just to give you a little idea of about how much of our community was impacted by our programming last year. So you can see kind of with the different trainings and support groups. I also forgot to mention that in our own voice presentation with the 2 adults living with mental illness, I love this piece. They do training every year, multiple times a year with law enforcement, specifically with crisis intervention, with officers who are needing to get those mental health training hours. And I have to tell you, it's amazing. Time and time again, we hear from, you know, our first responders really talking about, man, so many times when we're working with folks, they are in crisis, right? They're not at their best. And in our own voice, that presentation really helps to really humanize the person, right? We aren't just when we're at our worst, right? We aren't just when we are really sick. We're so much more than that. And so it's a great way of just kind of providing that other perspective. I should have mentioned that earlier, but it's a really important piece. So I want to add that. We had over about 10,000 10,000, yeah, 10,000 volunteer hours clocked by volunteers last year. As I mentioned, volunteers are really the bloodline of all the work that we do. We couldn't, support our community in the way that we do without them. And it's really amazing to hear from volunteers about how much giving in this way helps them as well in their own journey. And you're going to actually hear from one of our volunteers in just a moment. Yeah. So I'm going to show a quick video. I have 4:05. So I'm going to show a quick video of one of our volunteers, Valerie. She's going to share a little bit about her experience. Just a heads up, the front of this video is going to say Nami Austin, and she refers to Nami Austin. We used to be Nami Austin. We actually just changed our name in May of 2019 to Nami Central Texas. So same organization, just Nami Central Texas really speaks more to all the communities that we're serving at this time.
My journey through mental illness started when I was very young. My doctor told my mother that I was depressed. My mom's response was to move me to a different school, and I didn't receive treatment. I continued to struggle and was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder in my 30s. I was struggling with my alcoholism and addiction as well. I was in a really dark place. One of the biggest barriers to finding support was the shame and the silence and the stigma that surrounded mental illness in general. I was very silent about what was going on with me, actually until I found Nami. In the warm, supportive, understanding community that surrounds Nami Austin, people get it. We know that mental illness is a disease, it's a brain disorder. And we know that the support of family and friends is vital to recovery. Nami helped me start to talk openly about my bipolar disorder. Being a mentor for Nami's peer-to-peer class lets me spend time with others who are wanting to be happy and healthy in living with mental illness. It's possible to recover. I tell people how much work it takes to stay in recovery. But you know what? It's a battle I'm willing to fight because I've been given a beautiful life and I choose to fight for keeping it. Without having discovered Nami Austin, I think I would still be living with more shame. Being around people who are living in recovery with their mental illness and who are giving back to the community by breaking down the stigma that surrounds mental illness has been such a boost to my own ability to live with acceptance. People can see me as someone who has a full, happy, healthy life and then happens to have bipolar disorder. I am the face of recovery.
All right. So that's a little bit about who we are, and then you'll see our website and phone number there. I'm going to switch over to our website, but before I do, I just want to kind of pause. What kind of questions do you all have? I don't know if anything's been coming in on the chat, but we can, let me stop sharing for a second. Not yet? Okay. And if anybody wants to ask out loud, you can just take yourself off mute and ask. Completely fine. I'm just going to switch over to the website real quick in the meantime.
Yeah, and if you'd like to verbally ask, it looks like if you want to just raise your hand and I can allow to talk in this format.
Thank you. Okay, go back here. All right, so a couple of things. First, and actually, Sam, if you could just give me a thumbs up. Are you seeing the page that says Find Your Local Nami?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, awesome. So I just wanted to let you all know if you are in another area and you're trying to find what is the closest NAMI to you, you can just go to nami.org. That's our national website. And there's a tab that says Find Your Local NAMI. So you can definitely put it in by state. You can do by zip code, the distance. Also, as Sam mentioned, if you have siblings or other family members in different states and want to let them know, feel free to connect them in that way. And there's also a national Nami Helpline as well that families and individuals can call if they're needing to get some assistance that's non-emergency. So wanted to let you know about that. And then I'm going to bring you over to our NAMI Central Texas page, which you should be seeing right now. You're good?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. All right. So all the programming that I went through with you all today, you can see, you can access from that top tab, support and education. You just hover over it. It pulls into all those different areas that we went through earlier. If you're interested in getting involved or know somebody who would like to get involved, we have lots of different opportunities, as you can imagine. So for example, you just hover over that get involved button, go to volunteer. This page will kind of open up some different opportunities we have. We have volunteer info sessions coming up. It's a great way of just knowing a little bit more about what we do, and we'll really work with you one-on-one to find what is a great fit for you and how to start off your volunteer experience with us. Let's see, the events that I mentioned, such as our Nami Walks, are listed right up here, this top tab. Just hover and go to events. You'll see more about our walk there. And I wanted to show you about the Mind Matters events, the recorded videos. So we actually have one coming up tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. Suicide is preventable. So we'll have an expert coming in, and Lisa Sullivan talking about that. We also have another one coming up next week on your brain on anxiety. And if you scroll to the bottom of this page, you can see all the different ones that we've had in the past that you can feel free to go back and watch or share with others. It's all right there. All right, the other piece I want to show you is our resources. I know that, from time to time, you may be having a need for a resource within your own family, or maybe somebody you're working with or a friend. So the great thing to know is that we always have this right here listed. You can kind of see that if you just click on the plus box, it'll kind of drop it down and open the box up with more options. So we list all of our local mental health authorities, community services, and so there's lots of different great pieces there as well. Many times people are trying to find low cost sliding scale counseling services, and so we do have some pieces there. But we also recognize that sometimes, I know at least for me when I was starting off my journey, it was overwhelming. There's just too much information, didn't know where to start. And so if you look at the bottom here, we have our program support specialist, Jordan. Her email's right here. Here's her phone number. If you don't even know where to start and you're like, I don't know, give her a call, send her an email, and she can kind of walk you through that and at least get you started. Or if you're like, man, we received great services and you should know about this community organization, let us know. We definitely always want to make sure that we're adding to that. We will never, as an organization, recommend a specific counselor or a specific therapist or psychiatrist. Just as a NAMI policy, we know that that's a very individual fit for every person. So what may be a good mental health provider for one person may not be a good fit for somebody else. And so we really encourage folks to ask questions, and we can kind of help with what the information that they're going to want to know in order to make that decision for themselves. But definitely they can reach out to us and we can kind of get them started on that.
Okay.
And then I want to take you to our crisis page. So as I mentioned, this has our crisis intervention teams within the Central Texas area, 24/7 crisis hotlines. We especially want folks to know, many times I know with our local and integral care here in Travis County, if someone is going through, a crisis, and it's not one that's requiring 911 right away, they can essentially send out, if they deem that it's necessary, a social worker to actually go on site and make the assessment of that person. And so there are just some great resources to know that these are available right here in our community. The other thing is knowing the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. I tell everybody, whether you're a teen or an adult, put that number in your phone. You never know when you're going to need it or when you need to give it to somebody. There's also a National Crisis Text Line, and I'm a parent to a teen. I have to tell you that all his friends know about that number, and so please share with others, because that National Crisis Text Line is manned by people. And so they get great training, and it's a great resource to know about. The other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is right down here, we have a crisis planning guide. This is something that somebody can download. It's PDF. but it goes through some great pieces to really help people really prepare, right? In case crisis were to happen, they have that already kind of figured out and mapped together. And we often encourage families to get that, you know, obviously done with your family member when they're doing well. And so that definitely, that piece is there. We have a 911 checklist, which is really helpful because if you ever have to make a crisis call, it's scary. And many times we kind of, our cognition kind of goes out the window and we forget, you know, what information is helpful. And this kind of helps guide us. The other piece we have on here is our suicide assessment card. And this is a great piece. I'm going to open it up real quick. That just talks about in the beginning, what are some warning signs around suicide? And on the back, we use the Columbia Suicide Severity Rating Scale. This is meant for anybody, a layperson to really pick up. If they're seeing these warning signs and somebody asks these questions, you'll see on this list, as the risk gets higher, the color changes, and that really kind of lets you know, how quickly they need to get services, you know, and kind of will help you know from there what are the next steps. It's a great piece. And with suicide, you know, we know that one of the biggest myths around suicide is that if you ask somebody the question, then you're going to give them an idea to do it. Absolutely not. If you're seeing the warning signs of suicide and you're worried about somebody, it's critical that we're asking that question. It's a hard question to ask. So I really like this handout because it kind of walks you through that. And also, you don't have to do it on your own, right? It's a great way of starting the conversation, but also helping you get the help that you need to help your loved one or your friend. Let's see. So those are those pieces. Let's see, the coronavirus resource, it's right up here at the top. It's a little tiny, but it's right at the top on the right. And I just want to bring your attention to this. It kind of lists all of our online programs, but if you scroll further down, many times people are trying to find other online support groups so they can go here and find some more throughout the community. And some of these are throughout, you know, Texas or different areas. So please be aware of those as well. All right, so I have 4:15. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking so much and just kind of bring it back to y'all. Any questions or comments?
Thanks. So if anybody has any, please go ahead and chime in either in the chat or the Q&A, or share that you'd like to share some words, and we can go ahead and make that audible option available to you.
Sure.
Thanks so much. That's been so informative and very, very helpful. I have so many notes and things that I've taken away that are helpful.
Thank you.
And hopefully that's the case with many of our other folks.
Yeah,
We've got a question that came in. Does NAMI assist with all types of mental illness, or are they tailored to certain ones? Thank you. Great
question. Yeah, thank you. So when we're talking about mental health conditions, we're talking across the board, right? Anything that's defined in the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual around mental health conditions. None of our classes are geared towards a specific diagnosis. This is very purposeful, and this is why. What we know is that many times families, you know, might be in a class with different diagnoses, and they sometimes have a tendency to really, I want to say, devalue is not the right word, but really think like, oh, my situation isn't as bad because my loved one has this diagnosis and not this. And there sometimes tends to be a hierarchy with illnesses, and that's not helpful. It's not helpful to anybody. What we know is that so many times there are some things that are kind of woven throughout all these different mental health conditions, and that's really what we're capitalizing on the classes and in our presentations, is really what is some of those common themes that we see across. Now, from time to time, we do have folks that say, I really want a class that's specific about, let's say, individuals living with bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder. We're certainly more than happy to help connect you to some of those resources in the community, but for our purposes, we're really looking at generally across, right? What is that experience like for that individual and for their family member? So does that make sense? That answers that.
Thank you.
Sure.
I've got a couple of other comments and questions. One comment here. This is super helpful, like a one-stop shop for mental health, on getting help. That was nice.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
There's so many resources. I didn't realize that there were so many options resources and contacts available.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I've got another question here. Will we be doing future NAMI meetings for BHI? That's the company that most of us online here work for, Build Their Home Site, that speak about workplace struggles. Yes, in fact, I think we have a meeting with somebody from
Sharon.
NAMI tomorrow, Sharon,
Mhm.
to discuss some future options. So if you'd like to share via email or right here, any specific type of conversations that you'd like to have, so I can bring that forward to Sharon on cultivating next step conversations and meetings. Do you want to introduce who Sharon is, by the way?
Yeah. So Sharon, actually, I'm a visual person, so I'm just gonna pull it up on the website. So yeah, we have all of our staff right here on who we are, and Sharon is our director of development. And you can see all of our information right there as well. So yeah, definitely right there. And if you're a parent or you heard that parent support navigator, and we're like, oh, I need to know about that, Nydia is right there. So just know all of our contacts are right there as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent.
Let me stop sharing this.
Yeah, I think so. So we can see their picture.
Okay, here we go. Yep, there you go. Now y'all can see it.
There we go.
Yeah, so there's Sharon, Director of Development, and then Nydia, and of course our other great folks on here as well. Jordan is the one that I mentioned, that if you're looking for a resource, Jordan is really our person to talk to for that. So yeah.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing the pictures.
Absolutely.
I have a question here that came through. Are there resources for the delicate situation of suggesting a friend / coworker seek help?
That's a great question. So one of the things, let me share screen again. Move this over here. I did not go to this piece. We have several pieces, but I just want to bring to your attention one that's particularly helpful in starting the conversation, especially if we're worried about somebody. So this change the conversation card is just real simple, kind of talking about the facts, right? And knowing the common warning signs. But on the back, it gives some great pieces for how would you have that conversation, right? If you are worried about somebody, kind of, finding a comfortable place, asking questions and active listening. And you'll notice on this card that a lot of the language pieces that we're talking about are using I language, right? We talk about that often, even in our classes within our communication pieces, right? How much of a difference it is for somebody to hear, I'm worried about you. I've heard this, I've seen some of these things and I'm just worried about you, versus what's the matter, right? And so it sounds like very basic language, but I know that this piece has been really just helpful in kind of having on hand, and it's a great piece to kind of help at least think about where, how to have this conversation, how to start that piece. So definitely, we have these in English and Spanish. And so that's one piece that I would definitely say. We do go into a little bit more detail about this with teens, because oftentimes we're talking about, we're kind of helping coach them through, if they're needing to reach out to a friend. And so we don't have that piece on our website, but I could share it, but it is a little bit more geared towards like teens and their peers. But this change the conversation card might be kind of the piece you're looking for, Melissa.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, thank you all so much for having us here today. I mean, I'm not in any rush, so if anybody has any other things that they want to ask or comments, we'll be here for the next few minutes. Other than that, thank you all so much for having me, and reach out anytime. We're here.
Thanks, Jessica. Thank you so much for your time. And you've got access to the NAMI website. By all means, take a look, visit it. I know I will, and to be able to help people and friends and family out. And then, of course, we've got Jessica as a wonderful resource. Jordan I've spoken to already as well, and she's fantastic. And so it just looks like it's a very helpful team out there with you all.
Thank you.
Sure. If there are any questions that anyone would like to get in touch with myself afterwards, by all means, reach out to me. You know where I'm at, both at work and both on LinkedIn as well too. So by all means, take advantage. And if we have any other organizations, people from other organizations on the call today, please reach out to Nami, and this might be helpful for your team as it is for our team here at BHI as well too. So thanks so much for joining us. And again, we'll leave it open for a quick last minute for any questions. While I'm doing that, I'll mention that this is going to be recorded, and we'll send out the notes on where to access this future recording so that you can revisit as well too. And Jessica, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you
We're
all.
close to calling it a day.
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care, be safe, and be well.
Bye.